Hello and welcome to Graphing Rational Equations Wholes, Part 2. In this part, we're going to put it all together. We're going to solve problem 2 from beginning to end. Ready? Before I can do anything with this problem, I'm going to need to factor it. I don't like to factor with a leading negative, so I'm going to factor -1 out of everything in this numerator before I try to factor the quadratic. So to do that, put a negative here, open my parentheses, and take the negative out of the negative x squared term, factor a negative out of -2x, giving me plus 2x, factor a -1 out of plus 8 to get -8. The bottom is a simple difference of squares. X squared is a perfect square, 4 is a perfect square, so I have x plus 2, x minus 2. Remember all the times I said differences of squares never go away? These at least are simple differences of squares without any radicals. All right, I still need to finish factoring my numerator. So I'm going to need two numbers that add to +2 and multiply to -8. Well, I can do +4 and -2. Plus 4 minus 2 will give me a +2, and they multiply to -8. Now, we remember that our wholes are made by having a common factor in the numerator and denominator. So x does not equal 2 is going to be a whole in this graph. In order to graph the whole, I'm going to need to figure out the value of x if I factored that out of my equation. And let's not lose that minus sign. That always gets us in trouble. Before I do that, I'm going to want to graph my asymptotes. My vertical asymptote will be where I have division by 0 excluding that common factor. So it will happen where x plus 2 equals 0 gives me x equals -2. I'm going to go ahead and graph my vertical asymptote there. All right, after I have my vertical asymptote, I want to go to my horizontal asymptote. So now I have to consider the highest power of the numerator versus the highest power of the denominator, and they're the same. So now I want the ratios of the leading coefficients. I have -1 here and 1 here, so -1 to 1 is going to equal -1, and that at y equals -1, we will have our horizontal asymptote. So let's sketch that in here. Next up, we need our x-intercept, and that's going to happen where we get the numerator equal to 0. So if x plus 4 equals 0, then x equals -4, and that point right there is where we are going to have our x-intercept. I also need to get my whole over here plotted, so I'm going to use just this part of the equation to figure out where my whole is. So if I have -2 plus 4 over 2 plus 2, I have -6 over 4, or -3/2. So here we're going to find our 2, and 3/2 is going to be right around here. And I'm ready to go ahead and finish sketching my graph, since I know I'm in this section, and I'm in this section, and I am approaching my asymptotes. So I'm going to go ahead and sketch my curve here, and sketch my curve here with the hole in it. So now my domain is going to be all real numbers except x is not equal to 2, where our hole is, or negative 2, where we have our vertical asymptote. And our range is all real numbers except where we have our horizontal asymptote. So it's all real y not equal to negative 1. And we have a fully sketched graph.